I agree with that.
Yeah. So anyway.
But it is suspicious that, they would, if they custom built the ship, and, I don't know anything about structural integrity of ships or anything like that. I don't know if it was, impossible for them to do that.
To make it actually big enough? To make it
actually that long, especially the moon pool. The ship would have been pretty big.
It would have had to be very big to accommodate that large of a moon pool.
But why would you do that?
Well, why would you go to all this trouble and expense to raise an obsolete diesel submarine? Really.
Yeah, I guess that's the real question, isn't it?
There wasn't much in there. The Soviets had liquid fuel rockets, which was a technology that we had already had abandoned in favor of solid fuel rockets. So it's not like we were really jonesing for their rocket technology. And of course,
they were nukes, right?
Yeah.
So
it would have been possibly there would have been some usefulness to seeing their nuclear warheads and figuring out how tinkering with those a little bit. There would have been some usefulness there. But again, it probably would have been easier to just grab one of the rockets that had fallen out and just build have a much smaller operation that goes down and just grabs a rocket that's a missile in the ocean.
So, are there theories about these problems?
No, I have no theories myself. Well, I have theories, but I don't believe them very, very much. There's a couple of theories. One is that, one other thing I wanted to mention too is that there's a guy who was involved with this project called John Craven, who eventually wrote his memoirs. He was in the Navy, not actually with the Navy, he was a scientist, and he was involved in the sonar search for not only the wreckage of the K-129, he was the guy that actually orchestrated the search to find it through the sonar records, pinpoint its location. And he also was part of the search behind the Scorpion, which was a U.S. submarine that sank in 1968. It was a skipjack class sub that sank in the Atlantic off the Azores. So he wrote his memoirs. In his memoirs, he said he was talking about Project Azori, and he said that he had seen the photographs that were taken by the Halibut, and that he was surprised to hear that what the photographs were of was a diesel submarine. That's what he said.
Did he say what he thought they were going to be?
He didn't say what the photographs were of. He just said basically it was not a diesel submarine.
Have these photos ever been released?
Not that I know of, no.
And this happened again. What was the year they pulled it? 68?
That was the year the submarine sank. It was the early 70s when it was actually raised. Yeah, so
Freedom of Information Act extends how far back?
Yeah, they usually I would say it's long past time to release those things. And actually, I have not yet researched that. My bad. I should probably try to find out if any of those photographs have been released. But I really suspect they haven't been released, because what I suspect actually happened is that when the K-129 sank, when a submarine goes hands in the position of the planes, but say for example, the rudder is straight, and the stern planes have been straightened, and so you start to sink, and eventually, if your nose is a little bit, you'll start going more vertical, and at that point, your control surfaces in the rear of the submarine basically act like flutes on an arrow, and they drive you downwards. Essentially, you're gonna wind up going straight down. So if the K-129, when the K-129 sank, I'm guessing that probably it went in nose first. The nose was completely demolished. And so that's why the Navy felt very comfortable saying that they'd recovered the nose, because the nose no longer existed anyway.
Okay.
That's fair.
What I believe is that the Glomar Explorer, when it was built for another mission, it performed that mission, and then later on, as part of their little cover story, they went out to this part of the Pacific where this thing had been, where the submarine had sunk, and they parked out there for weeks and pretended to raise the wreckage of the submarine. That is my belief. Now, whatever it was they actually raised, I'm not sure. It could have been the wreckage of the Scorpion, which I mentioned a few minutes ago. There was actually speculation in the submarine community that the Scorpion had been sunk by the Soviets. So there probably was motivation to raise the wreckage and find out what precisely had sunk the Scorpion.
Oh.
So,
How big was the Scorpion?
well, that's the problem. The Scorpion was 252 feet long.
So also too big for the...
Yeah, well, when it hit, it kind of hit nose first. So what happened is part of the after section telescoped in.
So it scrunched.
So it did get compressed somewhat. I was doing a little research to try to find out exactly how extensive the damage was and how short the Scorpion had become from its impact. I've seen pictures. Of course, these could be doctored pictures too.
Sure.
Because if it turns out that they were able to take underwater pictures of the Scorpion, but if it actually torpedoed, they would probably airbrush that because admitting that the Soviets had basically declared war on you by committing an act of war, then you've got to do something about it.
Yeah.
So the story that I heard, I know some submariners, and submariners have noticed a silent service because they never talk about their stuff. But of course, they talk all the time. I heard from a couple of them that the Scorpion was in their boats in revenge, but hockey.
Okay.
And I've also submarined that the Navy had indeed wreckage somewhere. Mm-hmm. But again, could be just pure
garbage,
just pure BS. Who knows?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a mystery. So we don't know. It could have been the wreckage of maybe an experimental Soviet submarine, one of our experimental submarines. It could have been a UFO.
So so obviously we don't know exactly what it did, but after this mission, what did they do with the Glomar Explorer?
Yeah, the Glomar Explorer got refitted. Actually, I had the good fortune to actually see the Glomar Explorer. It was right here in Portland. That was I think 98, 99, somewhere in there.
Uh-huh.
I was taking a jet boat ride. You know the jet boats?
Yeah.
That are right by the USS Blueback.
Right.
The mighty Blueback down at Omsey. Yeah. Yeah, so I took a jet boat ride, and then we went up to Cascade General Shipyard. And on the outside of the shipyard was no less than the Glomar Explorer. I was here for a refit. And I forget exactly what they refitted it for, but it's still in service. It's 619 feet long.
So let's just start that section.
Yeah.
So how wide was the moon pool?
How wide is the moon pool?
Yeah. I'm trying to get a general scale of the Glomar.
So like how big is the Glomar?
Yeah, I mean, is it a giant block floating in the ocean essentially, or I'm just trying to get an idea of what
it actually looks like a ship. I've actually got a picture here. Yeah, it's 619 feet long. And as you can see from those towers there, those are the towers that those great big steel pipes go in are in.
Oh, so I'm glad you showed me the photo because it looks just like any other ocean-going vessel. I expected this thing to be some crazy wide and flat thing to accommodate the weight and the pull and all of that.
Yeah, you thought it would look like some sort of floating dry dock.
Yeah, essentially. That's what I would have expected it to be.
Yeah, but no, it's like bow and everything. It's just got that fancy 16 feet in beam. Let's take a look at this. So anyway, it was mothballed, eventually refitted, and eventually got sold off. And it's still in service today as far as in vessel for
feeling radiation out of it.
Yeah, so ask me again.
Do you know what they're doing with it?
Yeah, it was converted in Cascade General. It was modified to what they call a dynamically tuned drilling ship, capable of drilling waters of 7,500 feet.
So it's an oil drill.
And with some modification up to like 11,500 feet.
So it's Devin's right. It's a giant drilling ship now.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's like kind of like an oil platform. I think probably more for exploration than actually. It's probably too valuable a thing to actually use as an oil platform.
Sure.
But yeah, and so it's still in service.
Huh.
And who knows, knowing that maybe they're obsessed with secrecy, but there's probably still a couple of code books lying around in some old bar. Yeah.
So the Hughes Corporation built this, and when the Hughes Corporation went down, I mean, did any other information ever come out? I mean, I know he was a fanatic for secrecy.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious if anything ever slipped out other than that break-in that initially told us what was going on.
Not that I am aware of, no. It is all still secret. I mean, they're pretty good about keeping secrets, believe it or not.
Do we know if that break-in was motivated by secrecy?
It could have been motivated by a desire to get the cover story out there.
Sure.
Because obviously.
Wait, which cover story?
Yeah, exactly. There's always more than one.
Well, no, I'm serious. So what was the cover story originally?
The original cover story was that it was built for the mining of manganese modules.
Okay. Break-in.
Yeah, and there was a break-in, which blew that cover story, apparently.
Uh-huh.
So now we get to the next cover story, which is they're raising an obsolete diesel submarine off the Pacific Ocean floor.
Okay, except then that doesn't hold water, no pun intended.
Water, but cover stories are always like that. You never have just one. You have they're like an onion. As you peel back the layer, get to the next stinky little
tear jerking.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's possible that the break-in.
It could have. It's entirely possible that for some, perhaps they wanted to tweak the Soviets a little bit. And
that's true. It was the 70s, and it's still in the Cold War.
Yeah, perhaps they didn't necessarily want to tell the truth about why exactly they had built this ship and done whatever they'd done with it. But they decided it'd be kind of fun to tweak the Soviets. We've already done what we wanted to do with it. Let's take it out to the Pacific, park it somewhere, pretend to be raising their sub, and then we'll blow our own little cover story and tweak the subs. Are there any wild theories? I mean, any theories out there that are weird and crazy that up? I mean, nah, I have not heard any. This thing is like not really conspiracy theory circuit. This thing is not really huge.
Okay, okay.
This actually it's not a story that a lot of people are really into.
I was waiting to hear that this was where we discovered Velcro or something crazy like that.
Yeah, and 2 years later, Velcro. You explain that.
Yeah,
timing's right.
No, exactly. There it was on the ocean floor.
The logical place for Velcro.
Yeah, what the hell is this? Wow, look at this. Wow.
I could hold my shoes together.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Love Velcro.
Oh, God, who doesn't?
Are we going to do a show about Velcro?
Let's do a show about Velcro.
We'll have to do that.
Mysteries of Velcro. Well, anyway, that's about it for the story. If I think of anything that I overlooked in this particular story, our listeners, I will just sandwich it in at the beginning of the next story. So,
there you go. Or we can just update the post on the website. We can do that as well.
We can always do that. I'm going to continue to research this story. It's a fascinating story, and I think that someday we'll probably find out what they actually did with the Glomar Explorer. SidewaysPodcast@gmail.com. Okay. But, okay, so for those of you who are interested in following up or more fascinating details, or, if maybe you just want to, go over it again, just be sure you have it all down right.
Write us about the story or anything like that. It's thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com.
Okay, and also if you would like to write us, if you're somebody out there, like for example, if you're Dr. John Craven and you want to talk about, some of the details of that stuff, we would love to hear from you. Anybody else out there also, Roger Dunham, you please also write to us, is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. That's it for tonight, or today. Anyway, that's it for today. So we'll see you next week. For now,
talk to you later, guys.
I'm Joe. Bye.
Aliens.
It's the aliens?
It's the aliens.
I agree.
Yes, it's the aliens! Somebody agrees with me, finally! Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by your weird uncle who always brings candy that tastes kind of funny. Instead, it's brought to you by CrimeCon. That's right, CrimeCon. If you haven't heard us talk about it before, CrimeCon is going to be June 9th through 11th of this year, 2017, and it's going to be at the JW Marriott in Indianapolis. There's going to be a lot of famous folks there, crime commentators, investigators. There's even going to be some sniffer dogs that we get to talk to. I really want to find out what those dogs have to say. There's going to be other podcasts there that deal with crime just like us, so there's going to be great panels. I think we're going to be on a panel, so you should definitely come. As a special offer to our listeners, we have a promo code of Sideways20 to get 20% off your registration fee. So go to crimecon.com and register today, and we can't wait to see you guys in June.
Thinking Sideways.
From the aliens, you must unlearn what you have learned. I don't know.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways.
the podcast. I'm Devin, joined as usual by
Joe.
Also known as Squinty.
Squinty McGee over there. And,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm now going by Squirrel.
Oh, Squinty and Squirrel.
Yeah.
So that works, yeah.
Okay, great.
Just in case you're wondering, I'm just messing with Devin by squinting at it really hard suspiciously.
Yeah, calling you
Yeah.
Squinty, you didn't give that away at all.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk about mysteries, not cooking. We're going to talk about a mystery that was suggested in 2014 by Hunter and then by literally every single one of you
Lots of
since
people.
then.
So 2014? Mm-hmm. When was that?
Very beginning.
It was
a long
really
time
long
ago.
time ago.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah, we're old
we're old. It's true.
and bitter.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the disappearance and subsequent murder of the Grimes sisters this year. This year?
This week?
This week?
I mean, we can do it all year.
I mean, we are doing it this year. It is happening this year.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, we're really on track.
It's going to be a good episode, you guys. Just getting ready for it. So if you don't know, quick overview is that on December 28th, 1956, Barbara and Patricia Grimes, who are aged 15 and 13 respectively, disappeared, and then they were found dead on January 22nd, 1957 in a shallow ditch on the side of the road near Chicago.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, this is 2 Chicago shows in a row for you.
Yeah, it's actually 2 Silas Jane episodes in a row.
And 2 murders in a row.
Yeah. We're get those ratings up, guys. Gotta pump it.
Murder.
Let's back up a little bit and give a little context.
Yeah, let's hear about Chicago. When was Chicago founded?
Well, Chicago was founded in 1792
Close enough.
when Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah, okay.
Right? That's how that
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, no, for seriously. The Grimes sisters lived with their mom, their older brother and sister, and their younger siblings. There were a lot of siblings, and
They had a
frankly,
bunch,
I've
yeah.
never seen exactly how many kids were in this family, but they were 2 of many.
I know
And
there were at least 5.
I think there were at least 5 too, yeah. And they were in a working class neighborhood called McKinley Park, which is kind of south and west of downtown Chicago. It's not a suburb, it's a neighborhood of Chicago. I just take for granted that people understand how big cities work, but I guess it's possible that they don't. It's that, most of them have kind of neighborhoods within that have their own names. And you can even just Google like McKinley Park, Illinois, and it comes up.
I did it today.
Yeah. And it's probably, the address officially probably is Chicago.
It is. It's
Yeah.
in Chicago.
Yeah,
It's
there's a lot of that going on right here in River City.
Solidly in Chicago. It's about halfway to Midway Airport on I-90. It's not on I-90, but it's that sort of way if you're familiar with the Chicago area at all. Anyway, the girls, who were predictably for the time into the king, Mr. Elvis Presley himself.
Who wasn't?
Yeah, and on the night of their disappearance, the girls were attending a double feature showing of the Elvis film Love Me Tender, and apparently who cares what the second film was because it was Love Me Tender.
I think the second was the Elvis's film Love Me to Death. Wow.
I don't think so. No.
What was the movie where Elvis played the serial killer? I can't remember now.
I don't know.
He should have.
I'm not an aficionado of Elvis films. It may surprise you to know, given that I was not a teenage girl in the 50s.
Yeah.
Which is
Me
weird.
neither, actually.
It is weird that I wasn't. It's true. This was actually their 15th viewing of this film, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times.
Young people I've noticed have a much bigger tolerance for repetition.
Yeah, better capacity.
Typically, though,
Yeah.
you observe that in younger people
It's
who
usually like
are in
6.
single digits of the age.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
I want to watch Thomas the Train again, kind
Yeah.
of
Oh, yeah.
repetition, not
Yeah.
go to the movie theater.
Well,
But then again, it's the time. It's the equivalent of, maybe?
Well, I was going to say it's, 15 and 13 is a time of certain sexual awakenings, and, when you've got Elvis in this love film, I can understand how maybe that would be
And maybe they
something
just-
you do a lot. And maybe that was just a good way for them to get out of the house.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. So I think they walked to the theater. Every report says they got to nobody knows how they got to the theater, but they only had $2.15 on them.
Although if you see on some web pages it says $2.50.
50 cents.
Yeah, either way,
yeah.
it's like about $23 adjusted for inflation.
Oh, today's money.
Yeah, and obviously this is keeping in mind also that, the cost of film, even adjusted for inflation, has gone up quite dramatically,
Yeah, when I was a kid, I don't want to date myself too much, but movies in general, even first-run ones, were not as exorbitantly expensive.
Yeah.
Even adjusted for,
Yeah.
inflation.
I
as they
personally
are today.
blame Michael Bay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Star Wars actually, they actually bumped ticket prices for the original Star Wars, and